We're joined by Jason Cole of Baseball Prospectus, joins me on the television broadcast on KTXD. You'll get a little bit of a preview of what we'll talk about tomorrow night on the TV broadcast. But Jason, you've been here for most of this series. You've seen a lot of very strong pitchers for the RoughRiders go. I'm curious your thoughts on Nick Martinez last night. He looked very impressive to my eyes.
Yeah, really, this has been a very pitching powerful series on both sides. Lots of well-pitched games, lots of good arms out there. Martinez, one of the more impressive ones. Of course, I think it was, 72 strikes and 26 balls or something last night, which is, highly impressive. 7 innings of one-run ball. Ran into a little bit of trouble in the sixth, but otherwise was very strong. It was good to see Steve Buechele let him go back out for the seventh and kind of finish things on a positive note. And, he commanded the fastball very well. His changeup has really come along. This is a guy, it's easy to forget because he's now a Double-A pitcher, and he absolutely fits in here. He was a second baseman in college that pitched, I think, maybe 13, 14, maybe 15 innings his last year of college. He was the Fordham's everyday second baseman, and now he's become a legitimate starting pitching prospect with a chance to pitch in the big leagues. And it's a testament to him, but, he showed up out of college with a good delivery, throwing 4 pitches for strikes, and was 90-94 with his fastball then. So really, the big key for him has been refining the command and making some adjustments in the delivery here and there, and he's continued to do that. And as a result, he's just gradually improved on up here to Double-A, where he's had 3 very good starts to start his Texas League career.
A lot of time when you see a starting pitcher have success in the major leagues and a guy who sticks around in the big leagues, he's got one or maybe 2 things that really define him. You take a look at Adam Wainwright. He's got the great curveball in addition to his good fastball, an identity that a pitcher has. What would you say for Martinez? What sort of identity pitcher do you foresee him being with the tools he has now and what you expect him to do in the future?
Well, I think it's sort of like Neil Ramirez, where I know you had said Jeff Andrews had talked to Ramirez a little bit about finding an identity as a pitcher, and it seemed like, of course, the now departed Neil Ramirez to the Cubs, it seemed like Ramirez was starting to bring the changeup along. He wanted that to kind of be his identity. And it's sort of the same thing with Martinez right now, whereas a 4-pitch guy, and they've always just been, all 4 pitches have just been okay. I honestly think he's starting to find a bit of an identity with his changeup. And when I saw him last year in Hickory, the changeup was the second best pitch, but I talked to some other scouts. I just saw one start there. I talked to some other scouts, and they said, well, his changeup was terrible the night I saw it. His curveball was good, or his slider was good. And that's how 4-pitch pitchers in the minors tend to go. Neil Ramirez was the same way. One pitch would be on one night, and one wouldn't. So with Martinez this year, now I've seen him 3 times, and I think the changeup is really stepping forward as that consistent identity type of pitch where he throws it to left and right-handed hitters. That was his swing and miss pitch last night. He struggled with the command of the curveball last night. The slider, when you're locating the fastball changeup as well as he was last night, he didn't need to throw the slider until the 5th or 6th inning. And when he did that, it was an effective pitch late in yesterday's game. But for me, the changeup, along with the decent fastball and the fastball command, is starting to become that identity for him.
Here with Jason Cole of Baseball Prospectus. Luke Jackson pitched 5 no-hit innings before being removed from the ball game in the series opener. What impressed you about what Luke was able to do and obviously able to keep a good offense down for those 5 innings?
Well, I think also the changeup, and that's been a thing for Luke Jackson this year. He's always flashed a quality changeup in the past, and there's still development needed on his changeup. He does have a tendency at times to drop the arm slot a little bit when he throws the changeup. I think just out of that's what feels comfortable, and that's what helps you. It's just what feels right to him. But I don't think that'll be an issue long term. This is the first time he's thrown a ton of changeups. Jackson's obviously got the power fastball that we always knew he had. He was up to 98. He did sit higher than I saw in July with Myrtle Beach. He was sitting pretty consistently mid-90s throughout that start, and. He does need to get the fastball down in the zone a little more, but however, it's such a heavy fastball. The mid-90s, the late movement and everything, even guys in Double-A aren't really squaring up on it. And part of that is because of his curveball, because of his changeup. But overall, it's been a steady development in terms of the delivery, the stuff, and even the command is starting to come around a little bit as well. And it's been promising. There's some question, is Luke Jackson a mid-rotation starting pitcher? Is he a Tanner Shepard-like late-inning reliever? But the one thing that I think is not under question is that he's a future big league arm.
RoughRiders shortstop Luis Sardinas had the go-ahead hit last night. Luis has had an interesting run here with Frisco. He's gotten a hit in almost every game. He hasn't strung together a whole heck of a lot of multiple hit games. He hasn't hit for a ton of power despite a double last night. Do you see this month here for Luis as just sort of a breaking in period to Double-A? Does it matter a whole lot in terms of his development if he does or doesn't have big numbers here in his 1 month stint going into next season?
I don't think it matters a whole lot, especially when you look at the age. Of course, Rougned Odor is a little bit younger, but still, Sardinas is still a very, very young player and still a little bit physically immature, and that he needs to get stronger. And I think that'll be one point of emphasis for both the Rangers and Luis this offseason. Of course, there's no telling whether Luis goes to Instructs or goes to the Arizona Fall League or plays winter ball or takes the offseason off. That remains to be seen. We'll probably find that out within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner. And I think that'll be interesting to watch with Luis. But for me, I think it's more about getting the experience, seeing the Double-A competition, and adjusting to it. He's done very well at shortstop in this series. It's just he's so smooth with the actions at shortstop. The arm strength is there. Of course, he's one of those shortstops that doesn't bust out the arm strength unless he really needs it. But at the plate, I haven't seen him really overmatched, but I haven't really seen him put together a lot of great at-bats either. It's just been kind of in between, like you said, with just, he gets his 1 hit a game, sometimes 2 hits, but he hasn't put together a real impressive stretch yet. And I don't think it's all that important right now, but I am looking forward to seeing what he looks like physically coming into next season. And there's almost no doubt we're going to see him as the opening day Riders shortstop to start off the 2014 season.
Tonight's starting pitcher, Jerad Eickhoff, makes another start for the RoughRiders. He's had a little bit of a rockier go than Martinez and Jackson in his initiation to Double-A. You saw Eickhoff pitch in the TV game with me on Saturday night. What did you notice from Jerad that he needs to work on to get a little bit better at?
I think a lot of it comes down to command. He's got a good fastball that'll sit in that 91 and 93 range, and he can go get 95 when he needs it. He doesn't have quite the fastball movement that a guy like Luke Jackson or even Nick Martinez has, so it makes the command a little more important. And Eickhoff has flashed a better command profile than even those two that I just mentioned, because he is able to repeat his delivery, and he does throw a lot of strikes. So, the changeup's been a good development for him this year, along with the other guys, and it was good for him in his last start when he used it. The curveball has been kind of the issue with him this year, and that's one reason that cutter that was one of his primary pitches in Myrtle Beach, the Rangers are now trying to turn into more of a longer slider that he can manipulate, sort of along the lines of a Nick Tepesh, where like we saw in that start, his last start, the televised game, the slider was 82 to 87. Sometimes it was shorter, sometimes the break was longer, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing tonight. How does he command the secondary stuff? How does he command the fastball, of course, and how is that slider starting to look? Because I think that's going to be probably the primary key arsenal-wise for him going forward.
Finally, get you out on this. Just about a month left in August. Rosters will expand at the big league level to 40 players. Who do you expect to be some of the guys that get called up to the big league club? Maybe some guys that aren't currently on the 40-man roster. They do have one open spot.
Yeah, the guys on the 40-man roster, I think you're likely to see the usual suspects, the guys that have been up there this year. Your Joe Ortiz's, perhaps a Wilmer Font, maybe Corey Burns. Just kind of take your pick of 40-man guys, especially those pitchers that have been up and down. Perhaps Chris McGinnis gets up just in case they need something, especially if Lance Berkman may not be able to come back. Who knows about that? But if there's one 40-man guy I think you have to point to and say this guy could get up, it's probably Jim Adduci. And Round Rock, who's having a very good season. He's hit about 285 all year. He's got a career high in home runs with 14. He's a 6'2", well-built guy and has a little bit of raw power. He was also a plus runner. I think he's fourth in the PCL with 31 steals. So it's been an all-around solid season for him, and he's a guy that if the Rangers don't have him on their 40-man roster, is going to become a minor league free agent in the offseason, because that's how the Rangers got him, through minor league free agency from the Cubs. So a very good minor league free agency signing. The issue is that if he's a free agent this offseason, the Rangers are going to have a lot of competition, and maybe even some teams approaching him with smaller big league deals and giving him a guaranteed spot, because no doubt, say if Adduci were in Houston, he probably would have spent most of the year in the major leagues. So that's an interesting situation. We'll see how much playing time the Rangers would be able to find for him, assuming he does get up. But I think there's a good chance of that. He's an interesting guy worth keeping an eye on, especially with an eye towards next year. and all of the question marks in the Rangers' outfield situation with David Murphy and Nelson Cruz.